Thank you very much indeed for inviting me here tonight. Much appreciated indeed. As Eddie said, I'm McCarthy from West Cork, and then from the Parish of Desertserges. Now, most people never heard of Desertserges. Certainly most people here, and unusually about the parish, most people in Desertserges are unaware of the fact that they're from the Parish of Desertserges. They think they're from the parish of Inniskeen, but Inniskeen and Desertserges were two separate parishes and joined in the 1800s.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah. Now, what I'm going to try to do tonight now is I'm going to talk about this parish and also sort of let, I wrote a book on this for the lifetime of love, really, of love and despair. But I want to show you that any one of you could write a history book about your parish. If you can write about remote West Cork, you can write about anyone. Here is Cornhill. Cornhill is a very historic hill, actually, great battle fought and everything which I'll speak about later on. But if you see that map there now, you can see the side of the hill facing you is the southern side of the hill, where it's all bushes and gorse, very, very little soil. And you see the far side of the hill is the northern side of the hill. Now, what actually is about that? There's very little soil on the southern side of the hill because of the glaciers. When the glaciers came, when the glaciers moved, they moved north, really. But the sun was shining on the southern side, so that they melted faster on the south-facing slopes, so that the water ran out them faster, and it took all the clay, all the clay off the southern side of the hill, and left the southern side of the hill very bare. Whereas the northern side of the hill, which was getting very little sunlight, the glacier melted very slowly. So that's why in West Cork, a lot of hills, while some people like south-facing farms because they have the sun, actually the north-facing farms have far better soil. And I'm just saying that about Cornhill. This is County Cork, and there's Desertserges, landed on McCarthy, 51 townlands in there, and a close-up with it, and that's Desertserges civil parish. Now, interestingly, Desertserges was a parish before Cork was a county. Before Cork was named a county, Desertserges was a parish. Now, when we talk about the history of the place, one of the oldest remains that. Now, you're all familiar with portal dolmens, the 3 stones with the capstone on top. But what West Cork and Kerry had are what's called boulder dolmens. And basically, when someone was buried, now normally cremated and their ashes put in an urn, they put a heap of stones over it and a big stone on top of it, and that's known as a boulder dolmen. But what's unusual about this, and Dr. Video Line of UCC visited this, and what's unusual about this, they're 3 of them together. A triple boulder dolmen is very unusual. There's only a couple more actually in the country. Just like Ken there, I was a school teacher in my youth, and we used to carry little films there, and we had cremation and things like that at those. And then about to burn the fellow there and his action. Now, Pollock Fields. Now, Pollock Fields are really the old form of the people. Lumber were nomadic people. Okay, and then moved from place to place, and they hunted the deer and then moved around year by year. And they had no electric cookers or anything like that. What they did, of course, is they dug a hole in the ground, made a tank for all about 100 gallons of water, turned a little stream into it, lit a big fire beside it, and they'd roll the stones into the water and boil the water that way. And they'd boil the 100 gallons of water that way in about half an hour. And then they'd put in, say, deer very often, or a hog, or whatever it is, they'd skin it, alright, and they'd boil it then. Now, what kept it clean is that they made grass ropes wrapped round and round the animal that you had, the piece of meat, and then it came out to perfectly clean. You just had the grass ropes on, it was perfectly clean. Now that was boiling, but you could also roast, and we roasted the very same. They had a tank on the ground, again, so about 100 gallons of water. Alright, by the way, in some soil, for those of you who know soil, sometimes hard white dirt, they didn't have to line it or anything because it was like concrete, to harden like concrete and to be waterproof. But others they put in flat stones to contain the water. But when they were roasting, they put in no water, they added the hot stones, and that's how they heated the oven then. So a folk fear is a deep roast. So there's one lovely one there in Gorons in the Parish of Desertserges. Here on the left is a coronation stone, and that's the reenactment of a thing. A coronation stone, again, these are all over the place. These stones with footprints on them. And actually what was happening was every little area, probably the size of the parish, had its own king or chief, whatever it is. And you'd see the footprint there, and say for instance if John Dooley was the king and he died, well, he wouldn't have a son at that stage, then anyone up to his second cousin could become the next leader. So they'd start off then with his brothers, with his sons. And they'd try his son to put his foot into that footstep which was in the stone for generations. And if his son, the eldest son, fitted perfectly, he became the next king. Now if he didn't, they got to the second son, and then they got to the third son, then they got to the brothers, then they got to the uncles, then they got to the first cousin, and they keep going till they found the foot that fitted exactly into that footprint. And when they got that person, he became the next king. And it cut out an awful lot of controversy and everything, and they were known as coronation stones. Now, what we have, people are very familiar with forts, these circular fields all over the place. Lots of them had underground rooms, souterrains, some under terrain, under the earth. Okay, here in Carabao, now what's unusual about this is that there's keeping up the roof in the Carabao souterrain are old stones. Now, the old stones were sacred to other gods and used the first form of writing really in Ireland ever. But it just goes to show they no longer had their significance at this stage. Now, they usually about, I'd say about 1,500 years old are standing there like. Now, and that's the old writing closer in Carabao souterrain. Now, the old writing is an ingenious form of writing really and truly, because the writing was done that they're all, as you can see there, they're all straight lines on this one. You see what I mean by straight lines, or even slanted lines. They're all straight. Now, they were cut out with a chisel. They had iron chisels at this stage. Now, it would be very, very hard to cut out a letter like that, going out like that. But it's more easier just to make 4 little cuts like that. Now, this line here, that vertical line there and there, that was the actual corner of the stone. So you can imagine this here was the stone. So if you had one horizontal line here and one horizontal line here, you had the letter A. If you had one horizontal line going to the right, coming up like this, you had the letter B. And you see the way they made their alphabet, and you notice there there's only 20 letters, that's all in the Irish alphabet. And when I was going to school, that's all was in it. But now they use nearly all the letters. Again, that particular cross there is a wheeled cross. That particular cross is only for a bishop or an abbot, and that's found in the townland of Knox, so more than likely to the abbot's grave in Knox. That's a close-up of it. Here is Ptolemy's nap. No, it actually leaves out West Cork completely. It isn't actually that. I hit the wrong button. This place here, actually, that's the peninsula of Kerry. West Cork was left out completely. And the reason that I'm coming out to that is that what changed that was on Corn Hill, there was a man buried there by the name of Louis McCarthy. And Louis McCarthy was a High King of Ireland from 195 AD to 225 AD. And he was killed in the nearby Bandon River. And he was buried there on that hill. And, he was the High King of Ireland, Louis McCarthy. And there were then, as the ages went on, 195 to 225 AD, when the way ghost stories come out in the country and everything like that. In the end, he was looked at as a giant, his mom going, and there are various stories about him indeed. Now, what really made it famous, and this isn't Pat-a-Pat-a-Mully either, when you were going to school, you might remember Shana and other Irish books written by Pat-a-Pat-a-Mully. He wrote loads of Irish books. He wrote a book about Louis McConnell and Colin Hay. He wrote it in Irish and all written in Irish, and I came across it. It's funny when if people ask me where did I get my information, people think from older people and everything. I get most of my information on the internet actually for the book. Most of it, it's amazing. And I got that book, it was in Toronto University Library, I got that, but it was on the internet, I got it. And it was a fantastic story all about Louis McConnell, his life. And there was failures and everything involved in it, but I won't go into detail of that because it drives me mad. Now, he was, well, Louis McConnell was High King of the 225 AD. He had killed Art O'Connor, previously become High King himself, and Cormac MacArt, Cormac the son of Art, had to be reared then by Louis McConnell, because if you killed the king, at that stage you were obliged to rear his son, the king's son. That was the thing, because if you didn't, ill luck would follow you all the way. So he reared Cormac McConnell, or Cormac MacArt, sorry. And one day, a woman's sheep strayed into the lawn of the Queen, Louis' wife, and ate the grass. So Louis was the judge that time, and he said the sheep have to be confiscated. But Cormac MacArt spoke up and he said, that's not fair. They only ate the fleece of the ground, the grass of the ground. Only their fleece should be confiscated. And everybody said, that is really the ruling of a true king. And Louis McConnell then was hunted from Tara, and Cormac MacArt took his place. And Louis McConnell was hunted down as far as the Bandon River, and he was killed there in the battle of the Bandon River. Then he was buried on Corn Hill, on a corn. An outline of corn. That's corn now is actually from Corn Hill near Fermoy. The corn in Desertserges was desecrated and was ruined. That just shows what the passage into at one stage was like. Now that's a urn. Now that urn, that's a real urn. That's today in Ulster Museum. That's the urn in which the ashes of Louis McConnell were buried. Now, obviously, people would never touch tombs or own graves like that. But two people who had come into the country from England and they owned some land nearby, they said anyway, look, we don't believe in these Irish bishops at all, and they dug in, and anyway, and the workmen did all the digging, and they were ready. Next thing they saw the clock, and they came across it, and just as they came across it, they thought they had a clock of gold, because as Lorna said, there was a clock of gold buried in Copenhagen. And just as they were about to pick it up, there was a neighbour watching by, and he swiped in, and just as they were dug it out, he stole it and ran. Now, they ran after him, okay? Now, this is quite heavy to carry. So they were catching up, and then so he put in his hand to take out the gold, and he took a fist of gold, and he kept running because the lads were still after him. But when they had the proper fist up, and then he opened his hand, and when he opened his hand, the gold he thought was turned to ashes by the fairies. But actually, what he had in his hand were the ashes of Louis McConnell, the High King of Ireland, 195 AD to 225 AD. And that was in Copenhagen. And there was a land surveyor in Balliscarty, and the order was given to him, and he gave it to Lord Londonderry, and that's how it ended up in the Ulster Museum, and it's still there today, it can be seen today. In fact, I'm wrong in saying that it's in a warehouse, it isn't even in the museum itself, it's in a warehouse outside. The most important thing I found from my studies really was about Battle of Corn in 858, the Battle of Corn in 858. Now, I came across this in the annals, in the fragmentary annals, the annals of the Four Masters. That's where I came across this. In 858, there was a battle of Copenhagen. There were 60,000 people took part in it. The High King of Ireland, the King of Munster, the King of the Dacia all took part. The King of Munster and the King of Dacia were killed. Now, the King was the High King of Ireland at the time. That was Corn. And that's just to give you an idea. Now, on Copenhagen was fairly wide, overgrown and everything like that. And the butter road from Bantry to Cork passed over Cork Hill. And of course, when you have butter roads, you have highwaymen. And there was a highwayman there by the name of Donegal Black Din. He was Donegal McCarthy. He was one of 7 brothers. Now, when he was a young lad, he went into Bandon and he stole a bag of nails. And he came home. Now, if you stole something and you came home and you told your mother, you would, in good old age, you'd get one clap across the backside and he's walking back into Bandon to return them. But instead, his mother said, "Well done, boy, you will do well yet." So this started him off on a life of robbery and thievery. And he eventually got caught and he was hanged at Backbridge in Clonakilty. Now, if you ever go to Clonakilty where the super value shop is, that was where the gallows was in Clonakilty. That's how he was hanged. That was a recreation there with some children. And the butter road and the firkins of butter. And of course, you know, the butter exchange here in Cork, and the butter was brought from all over Cork and Kerry and everything like that. In the 1880s, they had 500,000 firkins of butter, and that's a firkin of butter for use in the area. It was amazing. And the firkin crane, that's actually where that's where they made the firkins. They fixed the damaged firkins. That's actually what happened in the firkin crane. And that's the firkin is like half barrel, really, quarter of barrel. That's some of the main work in there. And on Cork Hill as well, you had a sort of a place where a hospital would be to be the stadium for it, to sell dates and to really. Okay, forts. The forts were introduced to Ireland by the Celts. When the Celts came to Ireland, they brought 5 very good things. Ireland named 3 or 4 of them. They brought forts, and I explained them later on. They brought iron. They did not invent iron, they brought it. They brought the wheel to Ireland. Again, they didn't invent it, but they brought it. They brought the Irish language to Ireland. And they brought the plough to Ireland. They brought all those things. The Celts brought all those things. And they brought farming. Prior to that, most of the people in Ireland. Now, this has been disputed lately now with the Parliament and everything like that, but they were organised farming all over the country. It was the Celts really brought it to us. Now, they lived in forts. What were forts? But they lived inside little huts, round huts, rectangular huts, mainly round huts, and a fence around them, fort, a fortification. And around the fort, then you would have, around the outside here, you would have a drain, and they put that up on top of the fence. So there'd be a great support around them. Just there were protections, and there were protection mainly from wild animals, because at that time there were wolves and lots of wild animals roaming wild about them at the time. Right, the Vikings. Now the Vikings, as you all know, the Vikings came in their long boats. They also came as far as Desertserges, and they set a little monastery there beside where the old churches today. Now the Normans, we always associate the Normans with Norman castles. But as you know, you don't build a castle overnight or anything like that. What the Normans just built were moated sites. They were basically rectangular forts. Now there are 3 of them in Desertserges. Now this is a really particularly fine one, and still today, the distance between the top of the mound and the bottom cliff is about 20 feet, still today, and it's still in good nick there. It's just got feathers inside it now, whatever it is. And that was the first site of the Normans there. So normally these mortar sites were built between baronies, you know, where baronies met for some reason. And there's 3 of them there, just on between Kilmainham and Carbery East. Then the Normans, of course, they built castles, and Derry Castle then was built as a copy of one of these. Built by the Irish, that was built by the McCarthy criminal family. And Derry Castle itself was a lot of different people there. Eventually ended up with Lord Bandon, the Bernards of Bandon, and during the family there was a soup school there, a proselytizing soup school, run by a person by the name of Isaac McCabe. And now I read somewhere, but I'm in a small bit of bother at the moment about it, because his descendants in Texas have been on to him to say, I wrote in the book that it is thought that he converted, Isaac McCabe did, that he converted back to Catholicism in his deathbed. Now, I came across it in some documents, so one thing I tell you, anything that are doing studies or whatever it is, for goodness sake, write down the source and don't forget it, because I can see where I got it, but I can't find it. And they're only just interested because they were unaware of the fact that he had converted back. The big houses then, of course, came into plantations, Kilcorman big house. Now, that's not such a huge house. There were quite a few houses in Desertserges built or burned during the 1919 to 1923 struggle. And this house here now, for instance, owned by the Lambs. Now, David Lamb, who lived here, told me that their house was built because the auxiliaries called here, the Black and Tans, they called in here because this was a big house, well known, and they were entertained here. While upstairs here in the attic, the IRA were up here. So that, the Lambs didn't betray them. So when they were entertaining the auxiliaries down here, the IRA were hiding up here. And this is in an area now because from this there were a lot of sandies around here actually, in this area. I mentioned the butter road already. There were butter roads all over Cork and Kerry, and basically most of our roads, the old roads started off as butter roads to bring butter to Cork, which was the leading butter exchange in the world at one stage, to the top butter exchange in the world. And basically, what was so successful about it was a grading system. They had a grading system, and the grade 1 was the top, and the bottom was bishop. And there were 5 or 6 different grades. Now, during the penal laws, we had mass rocks, and sorry. Now, the mass rock here, there was a mass rock here because during penal times people weren't allowed to say mass in public or whatever it is. But Desertserges also is a beautiful triangular village here. If you're ever down there to Wilmore to visit, it's a little triangle of workmen's houses, beautiful stone houses, they're still there today. And in one of those houses now, Brother Kevin Crowley, Brother Kevin Crowley, the Dublin, he came from one of those houses. They're beautiful houses there indeed. And the head school there, that's an old fence of the head school there in Knox, still today, but that's all it is, just the fence. The villages, there are 4 villages. Basically, Mortine was the oldest village there, and Mortine they had a fair there 4 times a year. And that was quite a big village at one stage. And the townland of Mortine, the whole townland of Mortine, it was given to one of the Beamishes, with the same Beamish as Beamish the brewery now. I'll speak about those later on. And it was given to them after the battle for fighting when the Battle of the Boyne. So it was given to the Beamish family in the townland of Mortine, but there was a village there before. Lyre village grew up basically around the bog. There was a bog there, and of course that was the fuel at the time, and the people came up from Clonakilty to cut the trough there, and I would say there were 32 families there, and that street there was known as Cork Street. Peddler's Cross got the name from a peddler. Now, a peddler is a person who comes along and sells, buys and sells things. Now, the stagecoach coming from Skibbereen to Cork used change at a place called Change. They swapped the horses, and then they built a new road in 1815, and a woman used to come here to peddle her wares, and it became known as Peddler's Cross. And he grew up then in the 1830s around the church. The cropping pikes were made in the forge in Knox Cross in 1798. Now, in Ahio at the moment, there's a priest there by the name of Father Pat Welch. He's well into his 80s now. And his father, it just goes to show how close history is. His father remembers being told by a man that when he was young, he would watch, he was watching that battle. So Pat Welch's father knew a man who was watching the battle as a young man and they were opposing him. It just got to show, you think of 1798 over 200 years ago. You think of the famine, 160 years ago. There are people alive today who knew people who lived through the famine. There are people alive today who knew people. So, when you talk about history, it's not that ancient. But I thought that was very interesting about going back to 1798. I mentioned Black Din already, okay. The white boys, what's interesting about the white boys? Yeah, I'll come to that now in a second. Patrick Buckley, in 1823, putty was being made, okay, and the redcoats came along across the making Patrick Buckley and another man making, they cut him on the end. So they came in the middle of the night at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they arrested the 2 men and tied them in shackles. And they were waiting then for daylight to go back into Clonakilty with these to try them and throw them into prison, etc. Or maybe even at that stage to ban them off to Australia. But news got out at the time, and this is the time of white boys now and everything, and all of a sudden, within a couple of hours, there were 500 people arrived on horseback, and they stoned the redcoats. But if they did, the redcoats opened fire, and Patrick Buck on the 2 men on the ground, and one of them was killed. Whether the other died after, we are not certain. The man that died was Patrick Buckley. And it went to court and everything, but they were acquitted. The white boys now, in Egypt, a lot of said the white boys, they were a law to themselves, you know. They were very anti-tithes and everything like that, but they were also very anti the Catholic Church in a lot of cases, because they saw the Catholic churches being for law and order, and they identified law and order with the crown. Now, in Ahio, the church was just opened in 1837, 1838, and there was a priest by the name of Father Jeffers. And Father Jeffers, there's the putty, the redcoats catching them. Right, that's right. Yeah. Now, in 1838, the priest gave out about the white boys' reaction, and he said, look, you can't be going around burning houses, breaking animals' legs, terrorizing people. That's not on. If you're a Christian, we're supposed to love everybody. So, the white boys didn't like this at all, so when he came to say Mass in the lovely new church in Ahio on Sunday, the door was barricaded against it. It was closed. And, oh yeah, I have pictures actually of it on it, but I admit it. And it was closed. So he had to go to an outhouse with his neighbouring farmer. The following Sunday he came along, the same story. And the third Sunday he came along, it was the same story. So he had to be transferred, and he was transferred to Glenmoire. And most of the people there, like Glenmoire was so far away that time, they would actually, it was always thought that he was banned completely, that he was haunted, routed, but he went to Glenmoire. The priest in Glenmoire Father Mike's cave, and that's another story that it went. Now, that's what we did before. Monasteries, there was a monastery in Knox, and there was the abbot's grave. Desertserges, where the Church of Ireland Church is recently closed. It's very unfortunate that it's closed now, really. And Keel Monastery was run by the Vikings in 1838. There was Church of Kilcorman, Church of Desertserges, and Brockman there was a church, and Ahio Church, which is still there today. Now, this is basically where the parish grew up, Desertserges. Desert means a heritage of Serges. Serges was the name of the holy man. Alright, and a heritage or a desert was a place as far removed from human habitation as possible. They went away off an isolated place, and this was in a swamp beside the Magnon River at that time, and that's where he started up, and that's where the little monastery grew up, and hence you have Desertserges there. And Ahio Church, yeah. No, and the white boys, no. The white boys that came there were the Codies of Bangdon Mountain or Cashel Commons, which is in the parish of Desertserges. Now, William Cody and his brother Isaac Cody were the leaders. Now, after this trouble, they had to run because they were at odds with the law, and they went off to America. They went off to South America. Now, and one of their sons is the famous Buffalo Bill. Now, if you look up Google and you Google about Buffalo Bill, you will hear that, oh, his ancestors came from South America, whatever it is. But that's actually wrong. The reason for that, Sean Reardon, he was a professor here in UCC for one second. He wrote a great book, Antiquities of the Irish Countryside, one of the best books, very easy to follow, on archaeological sites. And his family, they're out from Desertserges, and they were out in America as well, and they knew the Corys over there, and they knew him. The reason that people think that he came from South America or some other place is that at that time, America was under English control, or very close to England as well. So they couldn't, when they go out there, say, oh, we have come from Ireland, whatever it is. So they had to give a false background. But basically, Buffalo Bill is Nahiona, and it is a Desertserges. And there's the traces of the famine. During the famine, roads are built. Roads are built there, the Derry line. Most of the roads that are named line, the new line, the Derry line, the school line, were famine roadways, and most of them were very straight. Lazy beds were where potatoes were set in ridges. Now, a ridge would be about that width, about raised up, it would be about a foot high, and they planted the potatoes in that. Now, this lazy bed here, the potatoes were never done, and those lazy beds are still there today to be seen in the from famine times. The Soul School was in Derry Castle, I mentioned that already, and the famine graveyard there, right on the side of the road actually goes through, the people were buried in there on the side of the road. Industry, what industry every Desertserges? Paper mill. Paper, there were a lot of paper mills in places, like there were about 30 people working in Desert Paper Mill. Parish Corner was a beautiful building altogether. Here you can see a drawing of it here on the right, beautiful building. But there was a law brought in there in the 1900s or whatever it is that you had to pay rates on all buildings, so they took the roof off it and then they dismantled it and it was put into the road. So it's completely gone now to the side of Murray Bridge. Desert had its own railway station. It had its own railway station because the man who owned the mill paid money to build the station there. So they had a horse there pulling a wagon from there to the mill. But he paid so that there could be a railway station there out in the middle of nowhere. This is the railway bridge just beside the road, and at the road bridge, and the railway came under it. Now that was built by people going to Clonakilty workhouse after the famine, on their way there from the Newsetown in that direction, going there, and they got paid as a bowl of soup for their day's work. And that's how the money was, that's how that bridge was built. That's close up. That's the same name, Parish. And there's the thing. Then the cropping pipes, which are made the Forge Cross. Now, interesting people, this is Church Hill House. There were a family there called Longfields. And there was a man by the name of Mountford Longfield. Now, the Longfield family, there was Mountford Longford, he was a clergyman, churchman and clergyman, and his family were famous. There were 2 or 3 MPs, there was a colonel in the army and everything, and that was the most famous, was Mountford Longfield, and he was a son of his father, was Mountford Longfield as well, the clergyman. Now, and he was a barrister, and he was very involved in the times of the Land League and sharing of land and all sorts of things like that. He was a pure legal eagle. But for 2 years in Trinity College, he was involved in economics because there was a chair of economics vacant. And he wrote a paper on economics and papers in economics, which had a huge influence on Sartre and on Marx. And there's a special day in Trinity every year which celebrates Mountford Longfield. And if you look up, Google up, and he's a very, very interesting man and the most interesting family indeed. But the family, they weren't loved by the natives because of tithes, and the Reverend gentleman had a huge income in tithes. He had over €1,000 coming in tithes back in the 1800s. So you can imagine he wasn't loved by the people. But his family were absolutely fantastic. Daniel O'Connell comes from a parish called Kilcrohannon. Not Kilcrohannon, Sheep's Head, or Kilcrohannon, Kerry. and he had to pay £50 in tithes. Now, he had to pay £50 in tithes when land was about a fiver an acre, you know. It was a huge sum of money he had to pay every year, and he had a huge controversy with Bountiful Longfield about that, because Bountiful Longfield was an absolute clergyman in Kilcrohany. And there's a lovely write-up in the paper about that. And this is Henry Ford. Now, Henry Ford, everybody associates Henry Ford with Ballascarpe. Now, quite right, Henry Ford's father was lived in Madame Ballascarpe, which Ballascarpe village is in. But his grandfather and his great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather and all the Fords lived in Desertserges Parish in the town of Cross. Now, you see about Beamish. Beamish as well. William Beamish, the founder of Beamish and Crawford, he's also a Desertserges man. And he's buried there beside Desert Church, which I showed you earlier on. I mentioned Brother Ken Crowley already. Brother Ken Crowley is also another Desertserges man. The Volunteers, 1916, the Loyal Volunteers. They were one of the crowds that marched from Loyal to Dunmannon on Jigila to meet Roger Casement, but of course Roger Casement was captured before they got there. Now, 1921 to 1923 was a sad time in the parish. Thomas Bradfield was a Protestant man, and he was Tom Barry and others went into his house, interrogated him. Tom Barry claims that he was dressed up as like a British uniform. Tom Bradfield thought that he was, and Tom Barry got him, cut him out, and that Bradfield was actually spying on the IRA, and they took him away and they put him to death. And as a reprisal, two of the Coffey brothers who were volunteers, now one was certainly no volunteer, he was just home and on this, they were pulled out of their veins. And in retaliation for the death of Bradfield, and they were murdered. Now these all happened within a couple of nights of each other, and the two families happened to be friends, which was sad. Tim Hooley then, he died as well. Now his mother said he was shot accidentally, and I always said he was shot accidentally as well, going over a fence to go to somebody, and he was shot accidentally during the troubles. But when I was reading up the B&H, one of the reports says that he was shot by Crown forces. Dick Barrett, at the time of the Civil War, Sean Hales, who was a very, very, very good friend of Dick Barrett's, Sean Hales was assassinated, shot, killed, murdered. You use whatever word you like for it. And this Free State government decided they'd take out 4 of the De Valera side prisoners, one from each of the provinces, and Dick Barrett was one of the 4 brought out, and he was executed on the 8th of December 1922. Lark Cunningham, he was inside the pub in Lyre, and he was shot during the Civil War as well. Also, to add to that, because this is a small area I'm talking about now, there was one family of Coffey family in the town, and it's Cashel. And the father, in the pension record, I come across it later, he's looking for compensation for his 3 sons who died during the troubles. But he got nothing because he couldn't give proof that they died fighting for Ireland or whatever it is, which was almost impossible to get proof, but he lost 3 of his sons. So that was 9 people. And maybe we give you a hand for that. And thank you ever so much indeed for